Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2021 Hope Conference, Mind, Body, and Soul. My name is Teri Weiss, and I'm a stained glass mosaic artist living with Parkinson's. I'm here today at the invitation of Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2012, my doctors made it clear that activity, whether that be my feet or my brain, would be my best friend as my disease progresses. Movement is the key to movement, and that's my daily mantra. I'm a very fortunate girl in that my medications have remained the same for the past 8 years. I don't know why I'm doing so well at this point, but I don't take it for granted. I want the audience to come away with this from my presentation with a sense of hope, and I will save more serious conversations for my blog. My medications have sparked a creativity in me that is relentless. Before we come to my mosaics, I would like to share a few pictures of our home on the Kettle River, which was the subject of my largest mosaic. Next. This eye-catching tree is our autumn purple ash, and it is part of the centerpiece of that large mosaic. Next. This is the front yard on the river. Next. And we were greeted with a rainbow 2 days before we moved. This is high spring runoff. Next. This is a leisurely 4-mile float from our house down to I Beach. Next. This is the neighbor's spring lawnmowers. He would bring them out every spring and let them keep the weeds down. Next. These are our Canadian geese, which would come back every year, and they would scream, fight, cuss, and discuss, and decide who got to get the best nesting place. I miss them so much that it is the subject of my one and only leaded stained glass piece. Next. This is how I dealt with my depression. I still, at this point in time, did not know that I had Parkinson's. So I was fighting a spiraling depression that I simply didn't understand. Who could live in such a beautiful place like this and not be happy? It was a puzzler to me. But this is what took most of my time. It occupied me with color, shape, texture. It was a blank canvas, and flowers are what I used to paint that canvas. Next. These are several beds. My wonderful husband built me 18 raised beds, and I built a few of my own out of rock and railroad ties. It's wonderful to plant something and watch it grow and have it come to fruition like this. Next. As you can see, I like flowers. Next. Each year also our barn swallows would come back, and I had about 8 houses for them. They would all mature at the same time. It was the strangest thing. The babies would all come out on the same day. They would line up on the fence, and by that evening, they were all gone until the next year. Next. We arrive at my mosaics. This is the first piece that I ever did. I signed up for a stained glass class, but being the impatient person that I am, it was already halfway done by the time I got to class. The teacher brought in and exposed me for the first time to stained glass, which is marvelous to do in my work or use in my work because of its even thickness. It just makes it a lot easier to work with. Next. This, my second piece, was the Earth from Space. It had originally been intended to be a 2-piece Dutch door gate entering into our side yard. However, we decided with the neighborhood vandalism, it'd be best that we put it on the front porch. Next. And here we have the Shadle house, which is the home we bought when we moved from the river down to Spokane. Next. These are my Celtic knots, and it hangs on my patio. There's a young man that I met, Keith Wilcox, who has done the sculptures that are in front of the VA hospital here in Spokane. I designed the frame and he built it for me and made the hardware. And it's a lovely piece. I have to tell the neighbors, no, they can't have it when they come to visit. Next. My niece plays classical piano, and this was an idea I had for her graduation piece. Next. As you can see, it looks quite different with different light. Next. I love the emerald green of this. Next. This is one of my favorite pieces because it was the first one that I incorporated another piece of that was not glass. I have a bridge here that's real, and these are children's violin strings. The young man at a local music shop helped me figure out what would work best with this, and the glass is stunning. It was wood, and it pretty much decided what this piece was going to be for me. Next. Silly joke. Next. A bit of the process here. This is my depiction of the Kettle River, and I start with an idea of what I want it to be, and I simply drew out my favorite things about living up here, which are huckleberrying. So I have 3 huckleberry plants in the foreground: blonde morels, black morels, our front yard, the beach, the river, Brad's meadow across the way, and the mountain ranges and sunset or sunrise, depending on the lighting. Next. I learned the hard way that you need to start from the top and work down so that you're not working on top of your work that you've already, your work that you've already done. Next. Here you can see the autumn purple ash in the foreground. Next. I inserted a few close-ups here so that you can see the beauty of this glass. It really, really lends itself to the subject matter in this instance. I've also incorporated a piece of Montana moss agate, and there are a few pieces of petrified wood here as well. Next. These are the blonde morels, which I have leaning on a fallen log. More huckleberries. Next. I like this picture simply because it is in natural light on the front porch after I had completed the grouting of the piece. It is the most true overall when you look at the pieces to its actual color. It has no flash from the front and no light from behind. Next. This is the piece lit at 10% with the cool light. There are 2 LED colors here, and through the range of 10 to 100%, and the 2 different lights, I have 3 different settings. So I can make this look like dusk, dawn, bright middle of the day. It's a very interesting piece that hangs in my living room, and it's lit most of the time. Next. This is my Canadian goose. I mentioned earlier that I miss them greatly. I met Susan Kim at Reflections Stained Glass Studio and took her last leaded glass class before she passed away, which was a year ago last November at the age of 51. She's an amazing artist whose work hangs in every Davenport here in Spokane, from the Bengal tigers over the check-in desk to the running giraffes, the elephants. The Peacock Lounge at the old Davenport has a stunning piece on the ceiling, and Susan was kind enough to share some of that glass with me, which I try to incorporate in each of my pieces, just in honor of Susan. Next. This is simply another close-up of the goose. Susan had a sandblaster at her home, and she was kind enough to take the piece of glass for the eye of this goose, which had black on one side and white on the other, and she sandblasted it so that the white would come through. Next. This is simply a remake of the first piece that I ever did. I incorporated more of the stained glass technique of using a pattern piece rather than as many tiny broken mosaic pieces. Next. This girl was fun to do. It has a piece of, well, it's called a cutoff, I believe, from an end sheet piece of glass, and the red, beautiful blood color just screamed that it had to be something prehistoric. dinosaurs and dragons are pretty popular right now. So this was fun to do. The breastplate and wings are iridescent. And I've also incorporated more Montana moss agate at the base of the trees. The river's source is coming out of a cave from an escarpment. And in the right light, you can see that she's blowing a smoke ring. Her green eyes light up when there is light from behind. It was a very enjoyable piece to do, and she is for sale if anyone is interested. Next, our HVAC repairman spotted my hanging on the wall here and liked it well enough that he asked me to make 3 pieces for each of his children who were turning 3, 5, and 7 before the end of the year. I sent him home with 2 pictures of each subject that he mentioned. He had his children look at them and choose which one they wanted, and when he brought them back, I set about trying to make them look like the pictures. Next. This unicorn is one of those 3. Next. And my favorite piece. This piece has, with the exception of the hair, only 2 colors of glass. And it was interesting to break it into pieces and try and separate it into different shades and have the eyes look so dynamic. But it's quite a striking piece. I'm very proud of it. It was quite a challenge, and I'm thrilled with how it turned out. The young man is not allowed to touch it, being that he's only 3 years old, but his father has it stashed away for future. Next. Aren't those eyes amazing? Next. Intense. Next. This was a gift for a friend of mine. Her favorite color was pink, and that was the only thing I could come up with was this flower. The hummingbird is really quite gorgeous. The blue, cobalt blue, is iridescent. It's just not showing in this particular picture. I was using a gold necklace for the rope of the swing. And in the next picture, you may see that. Next. If you look a little more closely at the island in the middle of the water here, that is actually the peacock glass that Susan shared with me. Next. Don't know where to start on this one. I cannot tell you how important it is to have a good neurologist. And I am a very fortunate girl in that I was assigned to Salil Manik. He is, without a doubt, the best physician I have ever had in my entire life. I would have to say during the first 6 months of my seeing him, he has called me at home at least a half a dozen times to check on me and see how I'm doing. When he walks through the door of the exam room, he knows who I am. He doesn't say, "What are you here for?" And he asks me about my health and recalls the things that I've gone through. It's just an amazing thing that he can remember all of his patients such as this. This particular piece is an ancient Egyptian symbol called the Eye of Horus. It is said to be the source of the modern day medical prescription RX symbol, and it symbolizes healing. I see him at the end of this month, and I hope he likes it. I hope you do too. Next. Here we come to my final piece. The glass that is striking here looks so amazingly different from from picture to picture. It is a see-through glass with streaks of color on it. And when the light is behind and from the front, it looks like different pieces entirely. It was fun to do, and the animals are supposed to be just a hint from behind the gorgeous glass, but in this picture, they're quite prominent. Next. Now, this looks like it's not even the same piece, but it is. It has some detail, which I took apart a bracelet actually and put pieces on here. Again, I've used a gold necklace for the posts of the animals. Next. This piece comes closest to showing you the gorgeous glass over the animals, which is what decided this piece was going to be. I saw the glass and I immediately saw a merry-go-round. It was hard working at it to make it come out this way, but I'm satisfied with it and I hope you like it. Next. The emerald green here is quite stunning. And again, I've adopted a habit of placing Montana moss agate at the base of trees. And I think that's the end of the presentation. Next. Yes. If anyone is interested in seeing more works or more pictures of the same works that are here, please contact me at the email address above or the phone number. I do commissioned works. I can replicate some of the pieces that I've already done. However, they will not be identical because the glass is a little different and I am not sure what's going to be available to me when I start a piece. This has been very enjoyable. I hope that you will enjoy this. Thank you.